Durbania, I'm Durbin, and Cody Leach joins me here today for another State of the DCEU. Cody Leach, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, man, other than the subject that we're about to talk about. How is all of you doing? That is the important question.
Doing pretty good. Tell us a little bit about your channel before we dive into this subject that we are both very passionate about.
Yes, passion. All right, guys. I'm Cody Leach. I'm sure you've seen me on Durbin's channel before. If not, you've seen Durbin on my channel before. And if that's the case, you know who I am. But anyway, I am also a YouTuber just like Durbin. I do movie reviews. I also talk music and video games on occasion. I do some ranking videos, top 5 videos. I have a lot of horror reviews. If you're a horror fan especially, there's a lot of good stuff over there on my channel to check out. And as always, whenever something crazy good or crazy bad or crazy weird or confusing or infuriating, whatever you want to call it, goes on in WDB and the DCEU, me and Durbin have to get together and talk about it. So that's why we're here.
So definitely check out his channel. And in terms of the horror stuff, man, Cody's kind of my guide through the world of horror movies. In fact, the theological analysis I'll be dropping this weekend, Cody Leach was my consultant on that. So Cody, thank you for freaking me out with Pet Sematary.
You are very welcome, my good sir.
All right, now let's talk about something that has us both mutually a little irked and freaked out here, the DCEU. So let's preface with our disclaimer. We love DC, and we want it to be good. Can we both agree on that?
Yes, we both agree on that. And it's really sad that we have to put this disclaimer out every single time, but that's the first thing people do. They jump in the comment section, "You Marvel fanboy haters!" No, we love Marvel, but we are very passionate DC fans, and that is why we have the criticisms that we do whenever we do criticize. Now, you can look at our last State of the DCEU, and it was full of joy and hope, and the one before that was full of confusion and infuriation, and this one is going to be mostly confusion. But that comes from passion, that comes from fandom, that comes from lifelong love of DC and their characters, because we want to see them rise above, we want to see them done as good as possible, and even beat Marvel. But to get there...
That's right!
But to get there, you have to criticize the problems.
Exactly. So before we get into this, you just have to know Cody and I love DC. That said, let's just dive into this. First off, rumors began to center around the Batman movie again. And this time, as the rumors surfaced, now, Cody, I was on a little staycation. My mom and sister came out to visit from Ohio, so I shot some stuff ahead of time, but I was mostly on a staycation this last week. And all this news dropped when I was on my little staycation. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that dropped, and was a massive rumor for about 24 hours, is that the Batman was going to be a standalone movie outside of the DCEU. Like, it was going to have not only nothing to do with the DCEU, that it was literally going to be under a different, separate DC banner. This is a Batman movie that is not the same Batman as in the DCEU. Now, thankfully, Matt Reeves squashed that. He came on Twitter like the next day and he's like, no, it just means no cameos from the other characters. It's Ben Affleck. It's the DCEU. It's the same Batman. It's just his story in this universe. And I think that made us all take like this great big breath of relief. But what I want to talk about is, why do you think for a day we believe those rumors hook, line, and sinker? Why would we so quickly believe that all of a sudden the rumors concerning the Batman were true yet again?
That's how today's age works with the internet, man. Things are so readily available, so fast, and things spread like a virus in seconds that's how things go. I mean, it could be some Joe Blow in the middle of the street who has a Twitter account who says, hey, I think I know the Batman villain in the next Batman movie ever. The Batman villain has been announced, oh my God! Like, everybody freaks out. So that tends to happen, especially with negative or weird news like this. So you get the director of the movie, Matt Reeves, who takes an interview, and he actually said, so it is his fault, this is not a part of the extended universe, or it is separate from the extended universe, however he phrased it. But he phrased it pretty definitively that this is not a part of the movies that you have been watching. So everybody, being the fact that Matt Reeves, the director, the one in charge of this movie, said it, ran with it very understandably. So this is one of the few times that DC has had really weird news that is not necessarily a clickbait rumor all the way. It actually has a little bit of fault with somebody very high up in WB. But why we ran with it so fast is because it's such wild, ridiculous news. You think about, people have been racking their brains over this Batman movie pretty much all year. I mean, back in January and February, it's all you could hear about. Every day was something new about the Batman. And now you fast forward to now, and suddenly the first big piece of news we get in a long time is this movie is not going to have anything to do with the DCEU, and everybody freaks out because it's like, why? Why would you do that? And everybody's asking, well, is it going to have Ben Affleck? Is it not going to have Ben Affleck? Is there going to be another Batman movie in the DCEU? Is this going to mean that they're done with the DCEU and they're abandoning it after Justice League? Like, there's so many different ways your mind goes, especially if you're a DC fan, that everybody freaked out because it's now all of a sudden the things that we were confident in after Wonder Woman is suddenly just thrown up in the air, and now we have no idea what to expect.
And what's so interesting about this is how perfectly timed that rumor was. So we're going to talk about this in a little bit, that the new Joker movie that is separate from the DCEU, that is now going to go under a different DC banner that is not the DCEU. And then shortly after that is announced, we get this rumor about the Batman. And honestly, it's like, I got the confusion, and I bought the clickbait hook, line, and sinker because all the news, as you said, back in January and February, it was nothing but confusion about the Batman. Ben Affleck's directing. Ben Affleck's not directing. Ben Affleck is Batman. Ben Affleck is not Batman. Ben Affleck is Batman again. Ben Affleck is not Batman again. It just went on and on and on. And so, like, the fact that more confusion just popped out about the Batman, and the fact that the Warner Brothers has announced a whole nother confusing thing, it's like, I get it. And so, like, for a day, until Matt Reeves did his post on Twitter, I believed it. I was like, yep, this movie just cannot get clear of it. And because this movie is so wrought with confusion, I bet you that's what they're going to do. I'm glad Matt Reeves cleared that up, but I really bought into it for that whole day.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? It's something weird, too. And I talked with you about this a little bit. Now, I have no idea if this is true or not. It's probably not true because I'm not really much of a conspiracy theorist, but something that you said really rang true to me because I thought the same thing. The timing of this announcement was very suspicious because they come out with this official statement, yes, we are doing a separate from the DCEU Joker standalone movie. And then not even a day later, Matt Reeves has some random interview and he decides to blow out the lid off blow the top of the lid off and say, oh, by the way, my Batman movie is separate from the DCEU too. It's not like some, in the middle of June, he just happened to slip a tongue and, misspoke or whatever. It was a day after DC announced that we are, in fact, planning movies outside of the DCEU. So I have a little bit of a theory with this. I feel like WB and the DCEU was actually testing the waters with what Matt Reeves said. I feel like they are confident that they can do standalone movies well, possibly even better than the movies that have to be connected to 18 other movies. And they may be testing the waters on whether or not they want to go that direction or not with the DCEU because I don't think they're very confident in Justice League, at least not yet. And obviously everything after Justice League is completely up in the air. The Flash, Aquaman, haven't really seen anything from. Shazam, nothing is really in front of the camera except for Justice League. So I think they put that statement out there to see if the fans would like that idea or not. Do the fans want to see DC go back to standalone movies, or do the fans want to see everything stay in this DC extended universe that we have been struggling to get off the ground? And I feel like the fans gave their answers. Do not make us buy into this universe for the past 3-4 years, put all this energy into this universe to get us to understand how this is all going to work and get us to buy into these actors and buy into these characters, and then pull the plug on it and say you're going to do separate things. So I honestly think that was DC just trying to test the waters a little bit with their DC fans, because I also feel like if Matt Reeves misspoke that bad and the internet exploded, I feel like he would have responded on Twitter a little bit quicker than 24 hours later to clear that up if it was honestly just a misspeak that he, should not have said, and then he realized the negative reflection of that. So I feel like that was a little 24-hour test. WB said, okay, clear it up on Twitter. We're not going to do that.
You know what? I think that's a good theory. Again, we have to throw our disclaimer here. It's just a theory.
Yes, just a theory. I'm not friends with Matt Reeves.
Because it's just so interesting how confusing the news has constantly been from Warner Brothers. We got the Flash. We don't got the Flash. We got the Flash with a page 1 rewrite. We got the Batman. Matt Reeves has thrown out the script. We got a page 1 rewrite. It just feels like, for whatever reason, everything past Justice League is constantly thrown up in the air. It's like this tizzy, and including the Justice League. I mean, when Joss Whedon took over after Zack Snyder, I mean, we thought that was just clean up in post-production, and now we hear all this heavy reshooting, which is normal for movies, but it feels like this is heavier than normal, and it's just like, wow. I mean, it feels like there is a total lack of confidence in the product, and that's why, to me, your theory makes sense, because I just feel like there's such a lack of confidence. Well, what do they want? Let's test and see what they want. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at with it.
Yep, that's kind of where my thinking is. So could be completely wrong, but to me it makes more sense than Matt Reeves, somebody who's very smart, happens to think that DC fans aren't going to freak out if he doesn't choose his words well. So I choose to believe my theory.
Well, now let's jump into something else that is going on that I do find pretty darn confusing. The fact that DC is launching another DC banner. And this one is standalone independent movies with the same characters in the DCEU, but a totally different cast, because these are just standalone movies that have nothing to do with these movies over here, which I'm just confusing myself saying that sentence. But now, a Joker origin movie based in the 1980s with Scorsese as the producer. On the surface, I think that sounds really cool because, I mean, Scorsese does good gangster movies. Now, he's not directing it, so it's not going to be that kind of Scorsese touch to it, but, I mean, the fact that he's putting money to it and he's being a producer of it, it's going to have some of his influence there, so that seems really interesting. The fact that he and Todd Phillips are writing this script together, it's like, it sounds interesting, and it's not against the idea of a Joker origin movies that I'm railing against. It's the idea of this whole separate banner of, hey, here's all the DCEU movies over here, and then here's all the same characters recasted in standalone things over here, and it's like, could you guys find a more confusing way to explore DC characters? What are your thoughts on this Scorsese Joker's origin movie?
Okay. I have a lot of good things to say about it, and I have a lot of bad things to say about it, so I'm going to try to run those down. So, what could be good about a standalone Joker origin story produced by Martin Scorsese? First of all, depending on how heavily his involvement actually is in the movie, never hurts to have the name Martin Scorsese on your film. The dude's brilliant, so I don't know if he's just going to be, I'm going to show up on set and tell him, hey, shoot that scene a little bit farther back, and that's all his producer involvement. You never know. The word producer is not as exciting to me as it is to some people. Some people are freaking out like Martin Scorsese is actually directing this, and that's not the case with producers. Producers can do a lot of involvement. Producers can do very little. Like Quentin Tarantino had very little to do with Hostel, but he's the biggest name on this poster. So it's kind of a marketing tool to a degree more than it is anything else. So that is one thing. Could be cool to have Martin Scorsese doing it. Number two, an 80s set Joker standalone story. Very cool. I love the 80s. I think it brings a lot of style. I think that there's opportunities there to tell some cool stories. And you could do a hell of a lot worse than do a standalone story of one of the greatest, if not the greatest villains in comic history, the Joker. So that's cool. On the other side of it, if it's a big gamble, but if they pull it off, it would be kind of cool to know that, yes, we're going to have plenty of comic book DC stories that are within this universe, but once in a while, we're going to get these really cool one-off stories that, as an audience member, it'll take a little bit of getting used to, and you're going to have to be involved with the marketing to understand that this is not part of the DCEU, but if they pull it off and you get cool little standalone stories once or twice a year, hey, that's just more good stuff for us comic book fans. So that could be cool. And that's pretty much the end of where I think it could be cool, because this is the bad part of that. They're doing it because comic books have done that for the longest time. Comic books are not all interconnected. You have like an ongoing Batman story, and then while that ongoing Batman story is going on, you'll get things like The Dark Knight Rises. You'll have the X-Men going on their adventures, and then while that adventure is going on, you'll get little one-offs like Old Man Logan. And those are awesome for comics because comics are comics. They are not movies. You can totally separate what an Old Man Logan storyline is versus, X-Men number 257 or whatever it is. So totally different mediums. Very different when you're dealing with movies, especially when you're really trying to hammer home that all of these movies are connected. That's the new big thing. So that's, it could pay off, but it could totally blow up in their face and screw up this entire thing for them. The other side of it, I don't think there's a character in comic books that needs an origin story less than the Joker. That is part of the Joker's appeal, is that we don't know where he came from. We don't know what makes him tick. We don't know what made him put on the makeup and cast his smile. We don't know what made him turn into a criminal. Has he always been evil? Did there something really tragic that happened? Did he just wake up one day and say, screw Batman, I'm just going to go after him? We don't know. And that is part of what makes the Joker so effective as a villain, part of what makes him so scary. And I don't want to know why. That's part of the genius of The Dark Knight, is that he totally plays on that whole thing about nobody knows why. The whole, do you know how I got my scars story that he changes every time he tells a story. That is the Joker. We don't need to know why he's the Joker. We don't need to know what got him into crime. We don't need to see him as a kid. We don't need to see that his father didn't hug him enough. We don't need to see any of that. And honestly, I don't want to see any of that. If it was a Joker standalone story when he's already in production, he's already been the Joker for 20 years, sure. But an origin story, no, I don't want that at all. Now, here's the other problem with the Joker 2 being the character that they're going to do this with. Could you possibly screw over Jared Leto more? They've already, I mean, they cast him, they get everybody, you know, they're pumping everybody up. Jared Leto is the Joker, he is the new Joker for our extended universe. And, you know, even though everybody is just so against the way that it looks and against this and against that, when Suicide Squad's coming out, he's one of the few parts that I'd say most people who watched Suicide Squad was most interested about, was seeing what Jared Leto was going to do with the Joker. And they cut, you know, what was it, 60% of his scenes, 70% of his scenes, and then you get this extended cut Blu-ray that they're building up for months, and then they get one extra scene with the Joker, and it's the one scene that totally throws off the relationship of him and Harley Quinn. And now you're going to have him eventually come back, and you're going to have this other separate Joker going on. What's going to happen if everybody loves this 80s origin story person who's playing the Joker way more than Jared Leto, and now you're stuck with Jared Leto in your continuing saga of the DCEU? That's going to totally screw things up for you. So that is, again, that's another huge problem that could happen with this. And I don't know, that there's way more bad that can happen with this than good that can happen with this, in my opinion. It could be cool. It's a gigantic gamble. It's a gigantic stepping stone that if DC pulls it off, you're definitely going to see Marvel do it. You're definitely going to see Fox do it, even though Fox doesn't really have a continuity. But you will see people copy this if they pull it off. But DC hasn't earned that confidence yet. They still are struggling to get their extended universe together. So you're not going to have fans' confidence that you're also going to be doing another universe on top of this universe that you're constantly juggling.
You know, it's funny because, like, the one hand, I do commend DC for taking risks. I mean, and they did take risks. Batman v Superman was a risk, and they took it, and they took it boldly. I don't think it paid off that well, but it was a risk, and they took it boldly. The next risk was they went right into Suicide Squad to build their universe. They went into building a villain team instead of a hero team to extend their universe, and that was a risk. I don't think it paid off, but whatever. I mean, financially it did, but I thought the movie wasn't that good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do commend DC that they're not trying to follow the Marvel path, but at the same time, the Marvel path works because, well, it was just so darn good. It built up individual characters, you fell in love with them as individuals, and when they came together as a team, it made so much more sense. And we're watching Warner Brothers just so juggle with this, and they're struggling. They're really struggling. Batman vs Superman didn't give them what they wanted. It split fans. Suicide Squad didn't give them what they wanted. It split fans. And now all these rumors that they can't even get Justice League together, so many massive reshoots. And on top of all of that confusion, you know, is Ben Affleck Batman? Is he not Batman? And now we are doing a standalone universe. And that, I just feel like, come on, guys. And what you said was such a perfect point about okay, so what if the guy playing Joker in the Scorsese, everybody just loves that Joker? Well, now we got this DCEU that we're trying to invest in, that we're trying to build up into something. And honestly, even though Batman v Superman was not my favorite, even though Suicide Squad was not my favorite, I'm invested, man. I want to see Justice League. I want to see another Wonder Woman. I definitely want a Man of Steel 2. I want to see this Aquaman movie. I'm invested. I want to see a DC cinematic connected universe. I want to see that. So then what if you go and you do this now, and you have all these standalone stories, and now we love that Joker, and we can't stand Jared Leto. And we already got like 3 movies now with the promise of Jared Leto in this extended universe coming out, and it's like, oh, I mean, on the one hand, like you said, it could be good, or it could backfire in the most major way.
Yeah, and I don't understand. If you're going to do standalone movies that's separate from your DCEU, do it with characters that you're not going to include in your DCEU. Do it with Shazam. Yes. Nobody cares if Shazam's in the DCEU. I'm sorry. He's a cool character.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Nobody's been excited about the Shazam movie or the Black Adam movie. So that would be a perfect movie to go off and do a one-shoot of. If you're going to do something like, you know, the people who are already in the universe, definitely stay away from. People who you're planning on including in this universe, definitely stay away from. But DC has got tons of people. Like, I don't know if the Green Arrow is going to show up, but like heroes that are kind of on that smaller scale, because without the CW show, nobody would know who Green Arrow is except for really hardcore comic fans. But like characters like that, characters that you can do great stories with, but you don't necessarily have plans to include them in the DCEU, at least not anytime soon. Don't do it with the Joker.
Like Justice Society of America. That could be something interesting to explore, because it's not the Justice League, it's a different set of heroes, and it's DC. And that could be something fun to explore in this independent whatever thing they're doing. But like you're saying, when you're taking main characters that are, you're already planning to make Jared Leto's Joker a main character in the DCEU, but now you're taking the Joker and you're making him a main character in this standalone universe. All you're doing is creating confusion when all DC has shown is that there's a mess when they come to their announcing what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. It's a mess and trying to, balance what they're doing. I mean, so far, the best movies they got are Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. And we're nervous biting our nails for Justice League. And it's like, come on, guys. Before you do this.
And what are the two things that Man of Steel and Wonder Woman have in common? They have complete focus on standalone stories of their heroes. They're not trying to connect 18 movies together, so they should just take that and run with it.
Yeah, so then when you finally do a Justice League after you've done these standalone movies without worrying too much about things, you could have something truly great. And I really do hope this Justice League movie comes out great. I really do. But like you said, where DC's weakness is trying to build the extended universe, those building stories have not worked so well. And now they're juggling and they're just throwing another ball in there. And it's like, can you really juggle 5? Okay, you're struggling with 4 and you want us to throw 5 in, seriously?
Yeah, and that's the weird thing with the DCEU too, because you get a lot of people online who get very angry and very defensive that so many people actually get so up in arms about all these news stories with the DCEU when they consider pretty much everything else clickbait. But you know what? The way that the DCEU and WB has been releasing news over the past year is like ridiculous on the level that it's unheard of.
Yeah.
Like constant announcements of movies without getting a single one in front of the camera, constant changing of schedules. Like the original schedule that we had however many years ago where it was going to be Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Cyborg, Flash, or Aquaman, Cyborg, Flash, and then Green Lantern Corps. That was our slate through 2020.
And then they threw in the Black Adam.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what that's doing now. Then they threw in this. Then they threw in Gotham City Sirens. Then they threw in Suicide Squad 2. And it's like, what happened to the other movies you were promising us? Where did those go?
Yeah, and there's a Man of Steel sequel somewhere in the ether. There's a Wonder Woman 2 that they're going to jumpstart because that's the most successful one, which is another problem. They think about what got money, so let's scrap everything and just do another one of those. They got that. I mean, they've got, like you said, Gotham City Sirens. Now the movie we're getting ready to talk about here in a minute added in there. The Shazam and the Black Adam movie are now two separate things. Where's Green Lantern? Somewhere in there. Maybe he'll show up at the end of Justice League. Who knows? There's all these things where you're like, what is going on? And it's not like, not to compare them to Marvel, but like the way that Marvel does it, we've got Infinity War coming out. We know we have an eventual Avengers 4. We know we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp. We know we have Captain Marvel and Black Panther. And we're not hearing anything else until those movies, at least 2/3 of them, are out in theaters. And it's just, that's the way that you keep things quiet and keep everybody confident. You got everybody, including us, our last video, everybody on this gigantic high after Wonder Woman. Everybody's hopeful. Everybody's excited. Yes, they've nailed it. It's going to be great. They've figured it out. And they have totally kind of squandered that for a lot of people now with these last couple of weeks, because now it's the same crap we were dealing with back in January.
And so before we move on to the next thing I want to talk about, I'm just going to boil my fear down into its simplest thing. The simplest thing is this. All the marketing that we've had for the DCEU has felt incredibly disorganized. The idea of a Martin Scorsese Joker standalone movie sounds so flippin' amazing. And it's this overall feeling of disorganization in their announcements that makes me go, but are you ready to confuse people more with a separate standalone DC banner? So that, in its simplest form, that is my feelings for this Joker origin thing.
Yeah, and I totally echo that. And you know what? It's hard too, because DC, it's a double-edged sword with them, because they, without a doubt, have the most popular villains, especially the Batman villains. Like if they announce today, like Martin Scorsese is going to produce a Red Skull standalone movie, there will definitely be people who will be excited. But you throw the Joker in there, or Harley Quinn, or something, Two-Face, something like that in there, and people lose their minds. So you got to be very careful with those Batman villains, because excitement really will overexceed quickly.
Let's move on to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is this Joker-verse Harley Quinn movie. And the first point that I want to make with this is because I feel like this movie is still very much just in the rumor sphere, so there's not very much concrete for us to talk about. But I am very fascinated by the DCEU's larger focus on producing villain movies than the hero movies. Well, I have nothing concrete to talk about other than We have this Harley Quinn Joker spinoff. We have this Gotham City Sirens that is happening, that isn't happening, that is happening, that isn't happening, that is happening. And then we have Suicide Squad 2. Actually, we could just lump this all into one conversation, because just like what I was talking about, that Joker Origins thing, the disorganization, the idea, what I found today was, okay, so Gotham City Sirens, not happening, because they're just going to go do the Joker Harley movie. Oh, wait, nope, they're doing both those movies. Oh, wait, they're throwing out Gotham City Sirens. Oh, wait, they are still going to do Gotham City Sirens. I want to pull my hair out of my head.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've had doubts for a long time that Gotham City Sirens was even going to happen, because when they announced that, I didn't see anybody that was excited about it. Everybody's like, why? Why would you do that? Like, yes, the concept is cool, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn. We don't need that right now. We don't want that right now, and you need to focus on the things that you've already promised us 3-4 years ago that still have not come to fruition yet. So I don't see that movie happening at all. Especially since I haven't heard anything about it aside from when they first announced it. Whether or not David Ayer wants to do it or not, I don't think that matters, because he completely crapped the bed on his first movie with them. So you got that. The Joker Harley Quinn movie is something that I think would have been a much better announcement right after Suicide Squad, to say, okay, you guys love those two characters, we're going to give you a movie specifically based on those two. A Bonnie and Clyde movie with, Joker and Harley Quinn, if you will. That would have been smarter.
Especially since Suicide Squad ended with Joker busting Harley out. Like, that's pretty cool. So it's like, what happens from there? Like, I would have been kind of interested in that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So that would have been smarter to announce, 7-8 months ago, whenever they decided Gotham City Sirens was the next big thing. And then you got Suicide Squad 2, which honestly I'm getting less and less excited about. The only time when I was genuinely really excited about the potential for that movie was when they were circling Mel Gibson to direct it.
Oh, man.
And after that kind of fell apart and they went with the guy who directed movies like Non-Stop and all these like kind of B-level action movies that got like a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, like every single one of his movies are kind of in that median. People kind of like it, kind of don't. And to me, it's just like, you're going to throw away Mel Gibson for that. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I really don't, unless they have a really big heavy hitter controlling that movie, after the disaster the first one was, I'm not going to be excited about that at all. So I really don't even care about that one. So that can wait as long as it needs to. But the Joker versus Harley Quinn, or the Joker teams up with Harley Quinn, whatever it's going to be, I'd be curious to see it. But again, it's just really weird timing with this standalone Joker movie, because now, aside from the fact that you're possibly going to have two come out within a year of each other, and it's going to be strange seeing two separate Joker movies within a year, again, it's another movie you've announced to us without delivering anything. So now we have Man of Steel 2, Wonder Woman 2, Aquaman, The Flash, Cyborg, Justice League 2, possibly not, Gotham City Sirens, Suicide Squad 2, Green Lantern Corps, Shazam, Black Adam, and now a Joker versus Harley Quinn movie. That's like 7 years of movies that I just listed off, and we don't have a single one in front of the camera except for Aquaman, supposedly. So I don't know.
And with how much it's all changed, it's crazy. But like today, I'm preparing for this, and I'm reading through all the news, and I cannot believe how up in the air all of this is. I mean, first off, so we got this standalone Joker Scorsese movie, but then we got 3 DCEU Jared Leto Jokers coming out. I mean, if they make all 3 of these, which I highly doubt, you got Jared Leto in Suicide Squad 2, you got Jared Leto in Gotham City Sirens, and you got Jared Leto in Joker vs. Harley, or whatever title they're going to settle for with all that. So it's just like, okay, so you have promises of throwing the Jared Leto Joker all over the place. Not versing him against Batman, but versing him against Harley Quinn. And then you have the Scorsese thing where, again, a Joker, but no promise of a Batman that he's going to be up against. It's like, this is just so interesting to me. And so the Suicide Squad stuff could be interesting. But like you said, I've not been interested in Suicide Squad 2 since they dropped the idea of Mel Gibson, who I think could truly pull something off that's really unique. And the Gotham City Sirens was probably the most interesting sounding thing to me, except I don't feel like it was earned. Like, I mean, we have not built the characters that really matter, which is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Cyborg. Like, we really haven't had time to build this universe and make you care about these heroes to really make these villains stand out and thus earn these standalone villain movies. And I don't know, Suicide Squad was just so disorganized. Like, when I was watching it, I just felt like there was no organization to that movie whatsoever. And that's my biggest criticism with it. I just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm watching a mess. And it just feels like, for whatever reason, I mean, it made a lot of money because a lot of people are curious, including myself, but because it made a lot of money, that is now the thing they're looking at, is all these villains. And I'm just like, no, come on. A trailer company cut Suicide Squad, okay? Like, it's a mess. And so now you're doing all these spin-offs based off of a mess. I'm struggling with this idea of where they're going with some of this stuff.
Not only that, but I really worry about how they're treating their villains so far too, because Suicide Squad did not nail the whole aspect about keeping these villains bad guys. They felt like heroes by the end of the movie. And I don't want good heroes. I don't want misunderstood I don't want bad heroes. I don't want misunderstood villains. I don't want Harley Quinn to be misunderstood, but she's kind of good. I don't want Joker to have some sympathy to him. I don't want Deadshot to be a guy who can team up with Batman one day and take him down the next. I don't want that. I want them to be villains. So, when you have Suicide Squad 2 coming out, it's like, are they going to continue down this road of good guys that do bad things, or are they going to actually be villains this time? When you have Gotham City Sirens and you have 2 huge Batman villains that haven't been introduced in a Batman movie yet, which is strike one, and then you're going to team them up with Harley Quinn, who's already on this road of kind of hero, kind of villain. Are they going to be kind of hero, kind of villain now? And now Batman's just beating up a bunch of people who are misunderstood. Like, just the whole direction of focusing on your villains but making them the heroes does not appeal to me at all. Like this Joker Harley Quinn thing, if they end up doing it, fine, but make them Joker and Harley Quinn. Make them kill people, make them be evil, make the Batman or whoever's going to be taking them down the good guy in the back. Like, he can be the antagonist for the story, but keep him the good guy and them the bad guy. You can do that. I don't like the movie, but Rob Zombie proved it. In The Devil's Rejects, you can do that. You can have villains as your protagonist and have the good guy be the villain in the movie, but you still have a clear cut of who is evil and who is good. So it's I don't know. The whole thing is just confusion. That's the word that I'm going to totally theme this episode with, is confusion. Where we had hope before, now we just don't know what to expect now. Now we don't know what's in the DCEU, what's not. What are we actually going to get, and what's just empty promises for them to see who's excited for what? Are we going to get movies that we actually need and we'd like to see, or are we just going to get movies that make money and we're going to have spin-offs and sequels off of that until they decide to reboot everything? I have no idea.
But again, we haven't earned it. I mean, we only met Harley in one movie, and whatever. And then, actually, she was kind of my favorite part of that one movie, but that's beside the point. We have not met Catwoman yet.
I think she was everybody's favorite part.
Yeah. And then Poison Ivy, like, we haven't even met her yet. I mean, we're only just getting introduced to the concept of metahumans, starting with Batman vs. Superman, so we haven't even been introduced to Poison Ivy and gotten her story or anything like that. And so much of it doesn't feel earned. And I just feel that about all 3 of these bad guy-centered projects. And it's like, guys, your focus is wrong. You did Suicide Squad and you split your audience. So what you need to do is go back to focusing on the heroes and build them up. Because when you build them up, you're going to build up their shadows that they cast too, which means you're going to make it more interesting for a bad guy-centric film. But you got to build up your heroes. You got to build up the people we actually want to root for. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, I'm reading all this stuff today for this video, and I'm sitting here flabbergasted in confusion. Like, what is coming down the road? Are all of these bad guy movies coming down the road? Is one of them coming down the road? I mean, I don't know which ones are going to stand, which ones are going to fall, which ones are going to be canceled tomorrow, which ones will be canceled and then reestablished. It's like, for the love of Pete. Let's just get through Justice League and then make hero movies. Seriously.
Exactly. I just wish, it sounded like they were going to catch their breath until Justice League came out. I think they even released a statement about that we're just we're going to chill. We're not going to really put anything into production. We're going to see how Justice League does, and then we'll kind of regroup from there. And everybody was like, good, I need the break. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like that, and then all of a sudden this all comes out of nowhere. And they even had, it might have been during Comic-Con, they had this presentation where they showed their new slate of movies, the titles, the dates, and everything like that. Like, they announced that The Flash was now going to be Flashpoint. They announced, Black Adam and Shazam and all this other things. So, and that's what I've wanted them to do for a while, is just, chill out, gather your cards, figure out what you want to do, get things set in stone, and then release to everybody, okay, this is our slate going forward. This is our new permanent schedule. This is our approach that we are taking. This movie, this movie, this movie in this year. This movie in this year, and this movie in this movie in this year. And we'll see you in 2019 after those movies are out, and then we'll go from there. But now, again, like we keep saying, I hate to keep repeating myself, but it's like we've got 12 movies on the slate, and none of them are any more ahead of themselves than the ones that we were talked about, 3 years ago. So I just don't know. It's hard to get excited for something when you don't know if you're going to get it or not. It's like a parent that keeps telling you they're going to take you to the zoo, and it's like the 5th weekend that they've said they're going to take you, and you're still sitting at home. You're like, I don't believe you anymore. I'm not going to the zoo, am I? So,
I mean, the real problem is there's no, like, you can just tell in the marketing, there's no vision they're building towards. What is making Marvel successful is they've been building towards Thanos. They've been building to the Infinity Stones. Like, you have these standalone movies. I mean, you have Guardians of the Galaxy that is in their own corner of the galaxy, so it can be its own little thing. And yet, even in that, that's building towards a common goal. When I look at all of these villain movies they're releasing, Suicide Squad 2, Harley Quinn movie, I mean, all these things, they're not building to something. There's like no common theme, no common big, huge, ominous thing on the way that it's building towards. I mean, they threw out Flashpoint's going to be a movie. It's like, well, that's cool. Are we building towards it? Is Flashpoint going to build us towards a certain goal? It's like Warner Brothers at this point doesn't have a goal that it's building towards, and it's that lack of vision that is really causing this whole thing to flounder, which is really the source of my entire confusion with this whole standalone DC thing, with this standalone Joker origin movie, these 3 bad guy movies, Flashpoint, this one, that one. It's like, gosh, you need a direction. Mm-hmm. Get a roadmap out, find a road, and go down that road. And you're going to find a whole different reaction from your audience.
It just sucks because, we were so happy not too long ago about Wonder Woman. And I still, I'm hopeful because of Wonder Woman, at least more hopeful than I was, but I just don't understand. One, if this is all leaks, I don't understand where the leak's coming from and why they can't find it. But if this is like legitimate, let's put it out there and let's get everybody excited. It's like, have you not learned yet? You're not exciting anybody. You're exciting the super fanboys, or at least the fake fanboys, but you're angering and confusing everybody else because we haven't gotten anything. So I just hope that they get it together. I have every finger and toe crossed that Justice League is awesome, although it's hard to be hopeful for all the amount of stuff going on with that movie, but I hope it surprises us. I hope Aquaman comes out and is great. I hope Ben Affleck stays on as Batman. Matt Reeves makes the greatest Batman trilogy of all time. I hope that if they do get these villain movies and these standalone movies that they all turn out well. I hope for all these things, but am I confident in all of them? Not yet.
I'm with you, Cody. And again, it's that lack of vision, and I think it's just apparent in all their announcements and then re-announcements, and then cancel those announcements and make these new announcements. It's like, quit making announcements. Shh.
Yeah, exactly.
Just sit down and figure this out. Then make announcements.
You're grounded, WB. You're grounded. Sit in the corner and shut up.
No more TV for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Cody, tell us one more time where we can find you on YouTube.
All right, guys. You can find me by searching Cody Leach. I should be the first person up there. Or you can just type in www.youtube.com/Cody Leach channel, and I will find my channel there immediately. Like I said, I do video or movie reviews, a lot of horror-focused reviews. Lately, I've been in a big horror kick the last couple of months. So I'm doing the Texas Chainsaw and the Child's Play series right now, moving up till October for those new films that come out. I have wrapped up the Nightmare on Elm Street series about a month or so ago, so a lot of good stuff to check out. Also do music and video game reviews on occasion. I do editorial videos much like this one. I do top 5 rundowns. A lot of really fun stuff, so go over and check that out, and you'll see me next time on the State of the DCU whenever we have something hopefully awesome to talk about.
And I'm sure Cody and I are going to have another State of the DC... Well, we are going to have another one here real soon. We're going to go see Justice League, and there will be another State of the DCEU after that, talking about our confidence level and all that stuff. So definitely go over to Cody Leach's channel. Hit the subscribe button over there. He's got a fantastic channel, and he's doing some awesome things, and he's growing really, really fast. So go over there, check out his channel. Also, hit the subscribe button right here on Durbania, and then click that bell so you're notified the moment I drop more videos. Got some excellent collabs coming up here in the near future. Got some excellent videos coming out here about the DCEU and Star Wars and all kinds of awesome stuff. So definitely hit that bell. I'm Durbin. This is Cody Leach. Thank you for checking out Durbania.